Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. In the last part, we went through the latter half of Stone Tower Temple and got more or less the rest of the dungeon done. All we have left is the boss fight, but we are back in the right side up version of the temple to grab 2 of the remaining Stray Fairies. I actually recommend you wait until after the boss fight to do this though, because the final of the 15 Stray Fairies only spawns in from a chest that we unlock on the way to the boss fight anyway. The main reason that the temple is up right side up right now is actually because when you leave Stone Tower Temple normally, it stays flipped upside down. This includes, I believe, if you fly back to Ikana Canyon. But if you leave Ikana Canyon, I think, it does swap itself back to its right side up state. So you do need to flip the dungeon upwards again. And we're just going to skip back now. I got those 2 Stray Fairies just to save some time. Not a big waste of time overall, because I don't have a lot of things to get done on this 3-day cycle in comparison to some of the others, but still, worth keeping your eye out for. Thankfully, just due to the structure of Stone Tower Temple, getting back towards the boss area where we got the Giant's Mask isn't too big of a deal. You just have to hookshot your way back up to the chest up there. If anything, the slightly more annoying thing about this area is, even though there's not a lot of items to get after we clear the boss here in Iconic Valley, you do have to flip the tower upside down if you want to fight the boss again after this 3-day cycle, which can be kind of annoying, but not a big deal. So, upon hitting this crystal switch ahead of us, we find the final of the Stray Fairy chest spawning in, so we now need to backtrack again through a large part of the upside down, the right side up version of this dungeon to get that. In particular, we have to head back towards after the Garo Master room. Speaking of which, another really cool thing I like about this dungeon, the mini boss room, at least the Garo Master mini boss room, and the overall boss room, they're the same room. I think that's real neat. Get the Giant's Mask out if you're playing the N64 version, by the way, because it's time for the final of the dungeon bosses. Ew. Creepy giant hole. Okay then. Alright, Twinmold's a bit of a weird fight, in that there's 2 ways you can fight it in the N64 version. You can fight it by shooting arrows and light arrows at its head and tails until both are dead, and that's all she wrote. Or you can use the Giant's Mask to become large in the only room you can do so in the game, and slash at its head and tail until it dies, and that's all she wrote there. With that said, you do need magic for that because the Giant's Mask eats through magic like nothing else, so that's why I got the Chateau Romani. Be careful in this room, by the way. It might look like the desert goes on forever, but there is an end to it, and you will fall off, and I think that respawns you at the entrance of the dungeon. The 3DS version, though, did a lot of changes here. The first phase is more or less the same as the arrow strategy, where you just shoot light arrows at one of them until they die. But then the second phase, you get the Giant's Mask, and it becomes a one-on-one wrestling match, where you can, like, slam the Twinmold that's remaining into rocks to do extra damage, and you punch it to death. But it's really slow and super clunky feeling to be just the worst boss changes in the 3DS. Not the biggest fan. Kind of a cool boss set piece-wise, but I think at the end of the day it might even be easier than Adol was, as long as you got the Giant's Mask in and all that jazz. But that's the end of the 4th dungeon, and thus it's time for us to get our next heart container as well as the final remains. All that remains in the game rather at this point besides the final area is side quests. We've seized Twinmold's remains. You've just freed the innocent spirit that this dark mask kept imprisoned within the body of evil Twinmold. Well, we've helped all of you. That's all we can do. Call us. That's what they're saying. Without being told, we understand. So now you'll help us out in exchange. We'll call you from atop the clock tower, so do something about him, all right? What? Their voices sound sad. You don't want to? Forgive your friend. Forgive our friend? What do you mean by forgive? Huh? What friend? And thus, the curse is lifted on Ikana Canyon. I think you can talk to, say, Pamela and her father to get more dialogue. I don't think you can really get anything out of either the ghosts around. In fact, if anything, I think the dead's supposed to have moved on by this point. But I've never honestly tried, because by the time I usually get here in the game, for one thing, I immediately head back to Stone Tower, because we have to go get that last Stray Fairy. But at this point, I just focus on what few side quests usually remain for me at this point, so I don't really experiment around at this point too much. Oh, and also, if you fast travel back to Stone Tower from within Ikana Canyon, it does stay flipped upside down. You even have that little unique cutscene of being flipped upside down again. So now we need to go get that last Stray Fairy. The unfortunate thing is, it is a pretty decent distance in. You do have shortcuts you can use at this point, because you can just head straight into the room with the water at this point, because the first sunblock was removed and all that. It's just kind of annoying to get back to more than anything. And here we are in this room once again. We just have to come down here and go across the floor, and there's the final of the 15 Stray Fairies and the last of all 60 in the game. So now let's head back to the Great Fairies Fountain that we were actually not too far away from a moment ago, and turn these in. And getting a little ahead of ourselves here, I'm not the biggest fan of this last reward, only because it doesn't have much of a chance to be useful, barring the very end game stuff. And I think to an extent maybe they could have fixed that by swapping around more than just Snowhead and Woodfalls rewards in the 3DS version, but the thing is, no matter what you do, no matter how you really order these Stray Fairy rewards, one of them's just going to be placed at a point where it's not really going to be useful. Like, say you keep the magic meter where it is here in the N64 version, and it's second, and you get the reward for this Stray Fairy first. Well, then you're going to get the longer spin attack third or fourth, and at that point, it's just not going to be useful. The double defense, that's already very unuseful in Ocarina of Time, because you can only get that at the very end of the game, so having that be last would just be kind of repeating that same mistake, but giving it to you too early, and enemies give you no threat. So I guess this is where maybe having one more dungeon, like 5 main areas to Majora's Mask could have been useful, so that you have 5 rewards, so you could space them out a bit more efficiently in terms of, like, usefulness. But oh well. Also, here's me showing off the fact that, like Bubbles, if you hit the Gouay, little crow enemies across Ikana Canyon, You can grind them for easy 50 ruby drops, no problem. They are the best method of getting money in the late game, as I mentioned last time. For now, let's get that last Stray Fairy reward. Oh, compassionate young one, I am the great fairy of kindness. Thank you for returning my broken and shattered body to normal. As thanks, I grant you the fairy sword. Ooh, pretty. You got the Great Fairy Sword. Set it to C to use it. With black roses etched into it, the Great Fairy Sword is the most powerful of all blades. Come see me whenever you are overcome by weariness. So the Great Fairy Sword is mechanically the exact same as the Big Goron Sword from Ocarina. Higher damage than even your fully upgraded Gilded Sword. Better range. But it's mapped to a C button, which doesn't feel comfortable. The main reason for this is because they removed the equipment screen to replace it with the mask screen, like I think I mentioned earlier on in the LP. And this is still pretty useful for battle. You can do the quick spin attack and everything with it. I forget if you can do jump attacks with it. I think you can. It's awkward to use, but you just don't get much to use it on. It's like the exact opposite problem. I guess the exact same problem as the defense upgrade in Ocarina, where you just get it way too late for the weapon to really be useful. I guess theoretically, it's possible in the game for you to go super out of your way to go into dungeons, just get the dungeon items, and then leave, and keep doing that from dungeon to dungeon to dungeon without getting the boss out of the way, so you can maybe just spam all 4 bosses in a row with this, but that's so far out of your way, it's not worth it. And that kind of leads into something I was kind of sad about with Majora's Mask 3D compared to Ocarina, but first, Secret Shrine behind Waterfall. Now winning the challenge is a bold visitor. Sure, there might. I think you can theoretically do this before the dungeon, but I always do it afterwards because, for one thing, I just got the sword upgrade, but also you need light arrows to actually enter here whatsoever. There is, I think, water and a magic bean spot in here you can use, but I think that just literally leads to either ammo or rupees that I have no use for at this point. It seems somehow you have managed to send the Ikano's wandering spirits into peace. But outside of Ikano, there are still swarms of wandering spirits with lingering regrets. The ones in this room want to meet you again and have been waiting here for quite a while. Go see them if you feel like it. I'm sure they'll welcome you. So this is a bit of a unique area side quest thing in that there are 4 caves that lead to refights against the mini-bosses from the dungeons. This is a little bit of a boss rush, and we aren't going to be doing our usual playing music and speeding it up deal. But I should note that you can only complete this quest all the way if you have up to 16 hearts, because if you look around the doors, they actually have little, like, heart puppets near the doors, little heart marks. You need certain amounts of hearts to fight any of them. In order to fight the Dinolfos from Woodfall, you need 4 hearts. To fight the Wizrobe, again, for the 5th time, you need 8. To fight Wart from Great Bay, you need 12, and to fight the Garo Master we just fought 2 parts ago, you need 16 hearts. But for now, let's get into it and play some music. Worth noting, you do get 100 rupees for every single one of those bosses you beat. Not that it really matters at this point for me. You really are an amazing person, Link. It seems you somehow managed to heal their souls by murdering them again. Maybe I shall vanish soon myself. Well then. And for clearing that quest, we're gonna get a chest, which you can probably guess what's in this at this point, considering we've collected way too many of them in the long run. Yeah, getting into something I was talking about a moment ago, something I was kind of sad about with the 3DS release. When Ocarina of Time 3D released, I think they didn't even talk about it in pre-release materials unless they did and I missed it. Ocarina of Time like had a fully functional Master Quest mode in there, just the GameCube games, remixed dungeons and all that. But they went a step further by also mirroring the overworld just to mess with veteran players to make it feel different. I was really expecting them to pull and add another one of those to this game's remake. I guess there's not really an easy way to do that without just completely changing the world structure, but it just felt kind of weird. But now we're skipping all the way to 10 p.m. on the final day's night because, frankly, we've done most of what we can for this 3-day cycle. All we really need to do now, since we saved the old lady on the first night, is come here and finally buy the All Knights mask we saw several videos ago. It takes 500 rupees, but we need it. We got the All Night mask. Apparently, this mask won't let you drift off to sleep even if you want to. Where it would see. You bought a weird mask. This was added to your notebook. Oh, I don't have nothing to sell. I kid you not. So, can I buy something? No. I think there's some fan theories that read the All Night mask as a torture device of sorts, which kind of dark, but oh well. And we're getting pretty close to the end of getting a lot of the items. Most of the remaining items, though, are all gotten by doing one particular side quest. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 28, we start the longest side quest in the game, but easily the most famous as well. See you guys then.